Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Ask a Creative. Today, I'm very excited to introduce the unicorn creature of the education system, a teacher librarian. Welcome, Jacki Clark. Thank you so much for being here
You're
today.
welcome. Very
Tell
excited.
me, why did you want to be a teacher librarian?
I just have a passion for reading. I have a passion for just engaging other children in reading stories. And I think over the years it has actually developed. So originally, when I got into teacher librarian studies, it was when I had my young children. And then my children actually got diagnosed with dyslexia. So I was then trying to really understand why reading is really difficult for them, and trying to find the right book for my own children, to be able to read. Sorry, my son's dog is in the way. And so yeah, it's just growing from there, my passion, and it just keeps growing.
How long have you been working as a teacher librarian?
I've been in the role for about 12 years now. Yeah, so
And what changes have you seen since you started to now?
yeah, quite a significant change.
I think
So
so.
um, I'm seeing my school relying on the teacher librarian role more and more as the years progress. It's not just about reading to children, and it's not just about zapping a book, borrowing a book, checking it out for them. It's about engaging the students in quality literature, and looking at the different elements. So how I run my library programs in school isn't how to use the library. I do that incidentally. I look at more trying to consolidate what teachers are teaching in the classroom. And because I work with primarily the younger students, we are always looking at the nouns, the verbs, the adjectives, the noun phrases, parts of speech, all that sort of stuff. And I get them to use quality literature, so rich text, to help engage them in that learning.
So when you're looking for books, so when you're scouting what sort of books you're going to buy, is there a particular book that you're looking for? Like, are you looking to link it to curriculum, or is it just good writing that has all of those beautiful elements in it?
Well, it's a bit of both. Obviously, we also have to think about those students who have got some sort of literacy difficulty. And so I look for books that, for older students, to try and get them engaged in reading. So I'm definitely on, lots of blog sites, book reviews, all that sort of stuff, to try and figure out which ones might help certain groups of students. Then, so I'm trying to look for both books for pleasure. And I actually do that as a lesson for my year ones and years twos. We spend quite a number of weeks. So my library lessons are sort of a bit more condensed, because I get them to look at what book are you going to love, like what one takes you to a different world, what writing is getting, like, engages you. So we'll look at that. But then we also have to consider the curriculum as well, and especially version 9, which is coming through. We're obviously changing our text as well for that. So yeah.
Yeah. And do you find that kids are open to engaging with books? Like, we hear a lot of stuff, especially in the media, about how kids don't read anymore and kids choose iPads over books. Do you find that to be true when kids come into the library? How does that kind of present when you've got kids in front of you?
No, it takes some students a lot longer to grab a book, but no, you eventually get them, and you also encourage them. Like, you have an idea of where your students' reading ability is, because obviously we liaise with the classroom teacher as well, and so we pick the right book. And I never discourage picture books to students. I show them all the wide variety of picture books. Um, and I read one every week, so that they understand that a picture book is still great to read. It doesn't matter how old you are or what year level you're in. And of course, there's some really great quality complex picture books out there as well. So always engaging. So I just have a think about the student, and I make my planning towards what their possibly could be their interest.
And especially with dyslexic kids, I know Tommy, he's going into grade 4, and I'm just now seeing that great divide in he loves picture books and he will still read picture books. But for him, moving up to the chapter books and the longer form books, I've even tried like things like manga and graphic novels. I'm losing him. So, what are some strategies that you could give to parents like me who have got kids who really struggle with reading, especially reading for fun? Like, how do you kind of build that up and show it as a really viable alternative to picking up their iPad?
Yeah, just trying to obviously match that. Some of the parents I actually chat with, and I just let them know that it could be a difficult book. Just let them, even if they just read a sentence or two off that page, at least they're reading.
Yeah.
I try and stick to a series if they fall in love with a series, so that familiarity of characters and of settings and all that is there. But I also try and link up. So we're lucky with Education Queensland. We're lucky that we have access to an e-library service. And so we go through Sora. And what I also try and do is there's often the book as well as the audio book. And I've worked out that if they borrow both, they can read the book. So this could be online, or it could be a physical book that I might have in the library, and it might be an audio book online. And so I also teach those students who struggle that they can listen to that book.
I love that. I love that. And that got my niece through high school, like audiobooks for her were just, she's ADHD. So she just like gravitated to these books, and it really helped her with her learning. I find when I'm doing my author visits now, though, a lot of the new schools, so the schools that are getting built, don't actually even have a library anymore. So they're being built without a library, and it's just up to the teachers to kind of have books in the classroom that a lot of the time the teachers themselves have, supplied. How do you think that's going to impact kids' learning going forward?
I think you're going to see personally, I think we might see a bit of a decline in that reading for pleasure, just constant reading. I do know that children's reading has changed, obviously, as technologies have come in. I think they prefer a short, sharp, sweet kind of finish to end, start to finish really quickly. But we have to cater for all students, so that there are students who don't really love reading. They like reading but don't love it. But then we've also got the bookworms who don't put a book down. So, and it's great that teachers are supplying, but we've got to remember too that that's coming out of their own pocket. They're having to purchase their own books unless they go through, a book club or something, or go to sales or whatever else. But I just believe that the classroom teacher has enough on their plate with planning, with observations, with parent-teacher meetings constantly, having to differentiate, and just to think that they have to also, on top of that, think about putting the right book into the child's hand. I just feel like that's just another thing on top of the classroom teacher's responsibility. So
it's just,
I think it's really disappointing that some schools aren't having a library.
And, for me growing up, especially in primary school, the library was a safe place. Like when I couldn't find anyone to play with, or, I just needed a break, like I could go to the library and find a book and zone out for a little bit. And that, for my mental health in primary school, that was huge. And if kids don't have that, then we're going to have this little generation of kids who aren't having that extra support during the day at school. And teacher librarians, what is the talk among teacher librarians about even the job safety of their roles? Are they concerned? Is it something that they think we need to maybe get more attention to and raise more awareness for?
100%, especially if we can get some authors behind us and illustrators behind us to really reinforce that we are a really vital member of the school community. Teacher librarians, we're dual degreed as well. We have our teaching degree, and we also have a master's degree in librarianship. So, it's one of the few school staff members that actually have that. I think it's really important that we are promoted and that creatives get behind us as well and show community members how valuable we are. So
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I remember for me as a creative kid, like my teacher librarians were instrumental in me even fostering that. And if we don't have, there's all sorts of sport things that are promoted during the school year, very few arts related, even in writers' camps. I don't think they even have writers' camps anymore, but it was teacher librarians who actually encouraged me to be an author in the first place. And if we don't have that, even as part of the school system, but also just the creative career of little artists and little writers, like that's going to have a huge impact on the whole arts industry going forward. So I absolutely 100% agree that any authors or illustrators watching, we need to support our school libraries and we need to raise awareness of just how important they are. If you could, magic a book or looking going forward about what types of books that you don't have in the library that you wish you had, are there some, tips that you could give to authors and illustrators?
Oh, probably lots. Off the top of my head, I think if we can get more sports related books, because kids do love reading, especially the ones who like all of our little soccer boys and that, just to get books into their hands. I think that's really important. It was great last year. We had quite a few published books by sports people or about sport, a sport, which is really, really good, especially with all of the Commonwealth Games, Olympic Games and all that
the
coming
Matildas
up.
and everything.
The Matildas, that's right. Yeah.
And the Ash Barty series. Do the kids love the Ash
Yeah.
Barty
Well, I got
books?
one girl hooked into reading through Ash Barty. So yeah. So it's
cool.
really good. And I think too, authors and illustrators have got to, I don't know if you guys realise that when you actually write a book and then you come and visit a school, you're like a pop star to our kids, especially if we've read a book to them and then all of a sudden you're the person who wrote the book. Like that to them is just the biggest highlight. So I think the more that teacher librarians and authors and illustrators actually work together, I'm hoping that might also just engage those kids and encourage them a bit more.
Well, thank you so much, Jacki. You've really inspired me now to be even more passionate about advocating for school libraries. I know public libraries have reinvented themselves and they're really trying to find a way to be community hubs, and people are just starting to see how important they are. But I really think now is the time that we need to get behind our school libraries and really advocate for them not only being the birthplace of all the future authors and illustrators, but a safe space. And also, you've got trained professional teacher librarians who can make a real difference in the literacy of our kids. So it just makes sense that we, become, as authors and illustrators and as a community, the biggest advocates for making sure that school libraries, first of all, exists, and second of all, have got, properly trained teacher librarians in there to help our kids be the best little them that they can be. So thank you so much for joining me today. You've really, raised some important topics that I don't think a lot of people were aware of. So I'm really grateful that you took the time to come and talk to us today.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me.
And I'm sure if things pop up in the future, I'd love to have you back to see maybe if we can talk about some other really practical ways that we can support our school libraries.
Absolutely. Thank you
Thanks,
so much.
Jackie.
Thank you. Bye.